Hello, everyone. I've got the great Steve Mitchum with me, and today marks the passing of Mike Clobberin times Alonzo. Let me get the background off there. And Steve and I just wanted to come on for a few minutes. We're not going to do a long stream, and I think a D Bud is in the chat. So great to see you, D Bud Martin.
Hell D, bud.
Long time friend. Yep. And we just wanted to get on just for a few minutes and just remember our friend. Just it's 2 years and. Just he was a real special guy that meant a lot to all of us. And Steve, long time. I always say the phrase "real life friend," which is kind of the wrong wrong thing. But I was privileged to get to meet Mike on the tubes of you later. Hey, Daniel Barry and Max Redstone. Yep. Yeah, it's hard to believe it's been that long. So yeah, R.I.P. To Clobby, and he brought us all together, which is great. So I need that wonderful charm and spirit, and I love telling the story of how virtually met. I guess unfortunately never met in real life, but as you all know, my favorite guy is Benjamin Grimm. The idol of millions. Uh, and my avatar has always been Ben Grimm, like forever. Always had the collected anything to do with the thing, and my kids were, and I discovered Mike's YouTube channel, and the kids were watching like, Dad, he can't steal. He stole your avatar. I'm like, well, actually, Jack the King Kirby created that drawing, but we both love the thing and Ben Grimm and the Fantastic Four and comic book, so I kind of stumbled across him. I think in 2020 or 21. Just the algorithm actually worked. We complained about the algorithm, but I think he was on with Marc C, talking comics and Superman and John Byrne's Superman, and that was my introduction. And then gradually, got to meet him through the Star Trek chat, and credit to Jed who asked me to go on his pop culture show, and then got to meet Mike through him, and then the rest was history. So some great times with Mike, and yeah, it was just really a privilege to meet him. So we just want to go on just for a few minutes today and just give a remembrances. And Steve, of course, if you want to tell how you met Mike, I guess in Baton Rouge, or what was your?
Yeah, I was in college, first year of college maybe, and I was just driving down the road and I saw this comic book shop, Southland Comics. And I said, "Oh, let me go check that out." And I went in, and big friendly guy there behind the counter
Yep.
asked, if you have any questions or anything. And it was basically a glorified shed. It was like 10 feet wide and 20
Pretty
feet
small then.
long or so.
Small.
Very small.
Small.
Just
Okay.
comics just stacked from floor to ceiling, and then
Comics holding up the roof, the
yeah,
comic boxes.
yeah,
Extra support there. Yeah.
yeah, totally. Yeah, you almost not even see it from the road except for the gaudy bright colors, and then and so I bought comics from him for a year or two. I don't really remember, and then one day I went by and it was closed, and I was going to get fabric one day, and I saw a
Yeah.
comic book shop open, and this was really far away from my house, and son of a gun, there was Mike, this new
Okay.
at a big place,
A new place, right?
yeah, really a big
Yeah.
a really big place where they had all kinds of stuff, collectibles and whatever.
What was that one called? That was I forgot.
Both of them were Southland Comics,
Southland Comics. Okay. Yeah.
and then so then we kind of lost track of each other again. And I'm at the mall, Cortana Mall. If there's anybody there anybody listening in Baton Rouge or listening to this on replay from Baton Rouge, it was Cortana Mall. And I was leaving Sears or something when that existed. And I saw across the road this little, very little strip mall, very, very little, with high pitched roofs. And I saw a thing that said Mega City Comics.
Yep.
And so I went into there, and
Which is Judge Dredd.
Yes.
Mike, one of Mike's favorites. Yep.
And he always told me the story about, or didn't tell me the story, but they misprinted the shipping labels when they got stuff, so it was always one word, Megacity. comics.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, and there was a woman with a baby in a crib, and somehow we started talking, and turned out to be Vicky, and the baby in the crib was Jonathan. And yeah, we became friends.
So you met him
and,
when basically when Jonathan was born, around that time. Yeah,
met him
he was
again.
married. He was married.
Met him
Okay.
again when John. I first met him probably a couple of years before that, and then met him again when Jonathan was.
And that's
born.
when you became much better friends. I'm guessing.
That's when we hung out for. You have to remember this was before cell phones.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if Mega City had a phone. The first one, I think the second one did. But in any event, and so we started going to movies together, and we saw. I think the first movie we saw together was probably Die Hard.
Good pick. Yep.
Yeah. What else did we see? We saw the first Batman movie, the Michael Keaton one. We saw together. I forget what else.
Nerd and geek films, right? Yep.
Nerd and geek stuff, TV shows. Yeah, he loved the original Star Trek. Originally hated The Next Generation, and he's received some ribbing on this, but he used to call it The Next Degradation. And based on the first 2-3 seasons, it's not hard to see that point of view.
The first few seasons are pretty bad. Yeah. And I was kind of wary of it too, and a lot of people were wary of it, but it didn't have that massive hatred. Just kind of like, what are they doing with these new guys here? But it turned out, we all came around to it because the writing was good and the stories were good. So
I think it became good.
Not in the beginning.
If in the first season, the guys in the dresses, and
Encounter Farpoint was good though.
See, I
like that one. Yep. I love Doc McCoy in the end. McCoy.
It was two completely different episodes shoehorned together because they wanted it to be a longer pilot. So they took two completely unrelated things and smashed them together. So, and then, the characters, I have to say, I think the only one that really had his character from day one was Riker. His character was pretty, he's the everyday guy. He was sort of the view, of the outside, the viewer, the casual viewer. And, Picard started off very stodgy and humorless, and not that
they all grew into it.
They did. Yeah, I think Worf especially, and Data as well. Data started off, if you go watch his first, several episodes, he was a lot less human. I'm trying to think of a way to say that makes sense. But I was gonna say, he was more robotic, but that of course makes sense.
Oh, Tim is in the chat with the iHeart Clobbering. Let me play that iHeart Clobbering times. Actually, I might mess up when I switch the media asset here. Let me see if it's.
And I will be back momentarily.
Okay. Yep. Steve will be right back. And let me put that on the background there. Yeah, I'm trying to get good at doing this YouTube stuff, which is tough. But let me play this clip.
I just love clobbering time.
We all did. Yeah, we all did. He was special guy. So, and always so damn welcoming and friendly. Yeah, I mean, Mike obviously had his opinions and could rant like the best of us, right? But just always very welcoming and friendly. And I keep playing this clip, but this is one of my favorites. I played it last night. Let me play it again.
And I'll tell you who I want to shout out right now is a guest of mine. First, of course, as you know, our great chief engineers here, Marc D with the sheet, who has made this show. You, dude, but since I moved to YouTube, I made some great friends, and I'm going to shout all of them out. Stephen S., what's up, buddy? But I will tell you what, none have been can I call you a sidekick without embarrassing you? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, that would make me lose a few pounds then, right? That could be a skinny sidekick.
I'm your sidekick when I go on your show. Only fair.
That's true too. Yeah, no, I really appreciate being here to celebrate this. So
we're alternate sidekicks. We take turns being the sidekick.
Yeah.
Thank you, though. I appreciate all you do, man. I get more sentimental, but I'm too much of an a-hole, so don't worry.
Okay,
I like to hear that.
No, we appreciate you, man.
Nothing garbage, right?
After this commercial, I'll be talking to other people. I'll be able to talk to you, okay?
So that's when we got. I saw Maddie there backstage.
Yes, Maddie is here. Yeah.
I don't know if she could hear Mike
No.
clobbering times. Hi, Maddie. Yep, but probably can't
Yeah,
hear
he
you
said
because
hi,
you have the
Maddie,
headphones on.
Hi.
Because hello, you're getting big.
He
You're
heard
gonna
you.
be able to beat up Dad soon. Yep, but
Oh, she's pretty amazing. Yeah.
yep.
She can
So
read books and everything. Yeah.
that's awesome. Yep, comic books. I hope she started with. Yep, and Deeple is here. Hail to Deeple 101. Tim, we're gonna do Fortnite in about 10-15 minutes. I just pushed it back, but we're not gonna do a big, huge. We could go on for hours about how much we love Mike and Miss Mike, but
Yeah.
yep, collaboranimo. Yep, but
Yeah.
we're just gonna we just didn't want the day to pass, and I was doing stuff, and we talked about it last night. Let's just go on for a few minutes and remember Mike and Maddie got to meet Mr. Clobby.
Yeah.
A few years ago too, right? Finally, yep.
Maddie met Mike a few times, Uncle Mike a few times. But she was like 1, 2, and 3, I guess. So, they loved each other, but he's sort of fading from her memory, unfortunately. So.
Well, that happens there when you're that young. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you remember she was a baby, in diapers, and
now she's a big girl.
Remember her dancing on my my desk, when she was a baby, and I put my hands on her to make sure she didn't fall, and she took them and took my hands, took them off. But she met Mike a few times. I wish that he could have lived longer so that she could get to know what a wonderful guy he was. I mean, he really. I mean, you've heard me drone on about Mike and how dependable he was, and he. When people, I say this all the time, the same example. When most people say, "Hey, if there's anything you need, give me a call."
Yeah.
And then if you need something like, help moving or something, they're always busy. Mike was not.
Right? Yeah.
Mike was there. Even if you were a friend of a friend of a friend in need, and he'd be there to help you.
I want to shout out Cam. Great to see you, Cam. Thanks, gents. Good to hear those memories. And I got to go back and clip more of Mike's great moment. There's so many great moments, and I encourage everyone. Everyone here has, but just go back and listen to or watch some of Mike's videos and spread the word. I always have his this message in all my YouTube videos, but let me put it in the poster. And I know everyone does, but there's actually some shows I still haven't listened to, and once in a while I just put a show on because I joined him, started watching later, and it just makes you feel good to go back and listen to some of that stuff. And hail to the great Admiral Teague.
Hail, Admiral.
Good to see you, buddy. Yeah,
Admiral. Yeah,
Admiral. Yeah,
Admiral. Yeah. I can't do a Ricardo Montalban like I used to.
Yeah.
Admiral.
Everyone's rolling, and a lot of people are rolling in. I didn't put this out on Twitter or just kind of went live.
When you put something about Clobby, aka Mike, people are going to show up.
I didn't. I guess it showed up on the.
It showed up on the
notifications. I guess. Yeah. But I didn't put anything out or plan this. Yeah.
I mean, you can. I mean, it's.
Well, it's good to see people rolling in. Yeah.
He made a big impact. I mean. Not to take anything away from any other streamers or content creators, but Mike had a certain panache. He had the humor, he had the jokes and the impressions, and there was just something. I think you used the word. What did you say? Charisma or charm or something?
Charisma, charm. Yeah,
charisma.
He had a. If you played D&D, he would have had an 18 charisma. Yep.
I'll just assume that's good, but yeah.
Come on, what kind of geek are you? Yes, 18 is the best. Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
18, 100. If you get 18, then you roll a multiplier out of 0 to 100. So like Thor would have had 18. Well, actually, Thor would have had like 25 strength, but I'm nerding out here. Yep.
Yeah. Well, you've come to the right place. Or I guess we've come to the right place. But yeah. Mike did bring a certain energy, and there's not as much cohesion without him as there used to be. you know. So,
Everyone respected his opinion too, even if they didn't agree with him. He kind of had the gravitas
right.
that when he said something, I remember arguing about, and I would argue with him on stuff, but good natured when I say argument, but just
Right.
geek and nerd, comic book shop stuff, and I kept saying I love the Watchmen movie. He's like, but Mark, he's like, the ending is just so terrible. Let me explain to you why. I'm like, damn it, Mike, you ruined the movie for me because I really liked it. That was a running joke. I'm like, all right, you're right, but I still like the movie. You're not gonna,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
and all of us would never agree on on anything. I couldn't stand the first Trek movie. And
the motion picture.
Yeah, and I liked Voyager, and
yeah.
For me, the original Star Wars, when it was still just called Star Wars, before it was A New Hope.
Yeah.
That was the best one, and for Mike, it was Return of the Jedi, I guess.
Oh, he hated Return of the Jedi, but years
not Return.
later he got.
What's the not?
He
Return
did not like
Jedi.
Return, but then years later he kind of came around to it.
Revenge of the
Sith.
no.
And Hail to RobAltis.
Yeah, I can't remember the names of the movies.
So you're talking prequels or sequel? I mean,
the original three.
Star Wars, Empire, and then
Empire. Empire was his.
He loved Empire. That was his one of his favorite
that's
movies.
What I meant to say. Yeah, things like Laser Brain and Walking Carpet. Well, Laser Brain, but So, but it didn't really matter. We could. That's the thing, about Mike, and even you and me, and some of the other people, is that we can disagree and we can debate, and then you're still friends. Whereas these days you have the slightest disagreement with somebody, and it's death to the hill people, spit on the grave of you and your ancestors, and Mike was a civil guy, and he brought like I said, he brought energy, he brought humor, charm, and I'd say he brought a lot of people together as well.
Yeah, it brought me together with you and everyone else. I mean,
yeah.
I just life is funny how things can take a turn. Like I always tell the story, my wife and I met at a bar. I wasn't that drunk. She probably was way drunk to stick with me, but I was leaving that bar, and this is before cell phone. I was going down the stairs, leaving that bar, and I'm like, would I've ever met her again? Before cell phone. Oh, you muted, Steve. But before cell phones and everything else, like I could have maybe tracked her down through my friend of mutual friend that we knew, but maybe not. I mean, but in life, I just flipped through on YouTube, and the cloud, the thing came up as an avatar, and I'm like, let me watch the show. Oh, and they're talking about comic books, and because before that on YouTube, I was really watching. I love politics, a lot of politics, and just more like how to build things or engineering stuff, or not more of those. And I'm like, wow, they can. Someone's in the chat and they'll answer you in the chat. It was like a revelation, versus watching like canned videos that I've been doing. And Mike was always so friendly and welcoming to everyone, and as Cam saying, eager to share his knowledge with you, and he never put you down too. Like if you made a mistake, I remember one stream, a comic book guy, was talking about an artist. I won't even mention the details, so you can't piece it together. But an artist who mainly did covers, and then the guy, after he passed, the guy's like, oh, and he was well known for, let's say, like the Flash, right? And Mike telling him, like, he really didn't draw the Flash. I might be misremembering. His memory was great, but like, and he finally just let it go. He's like, after the show, I'm like, yeah, I think you're right too, because I've read my share of comics in the day, and he just like, well, what's the point? He's like, oh, it's okay, it's all right, just let it go. And Mike, a lot of times you check those like my comic book program, he would have the artist right, and the program would be wrong. Like there'd be mistakes in the program, and he's like, oh, my memory's Garbaggio, right? Yeah,
Garbaggio, that was his term. He was very knowledgeable. He also you briefly touched on politics. He had his political views. Trying to bring up my computer so I could see the chat, but I'll just have to live without. I don't even know how many people are in the chat.
Well, we got about 20 people here, and hail to Krimlon, RJ Godzilla, Admiral Teague, Cam Can's here, Brian Hepburn. So yeah, thank everyone for rolling in. Yep.
Wow, yeah, great group of people.
And just leave your memory of Mike. You know, it'd be fun too if anyone, you know, we got 20 people here. Watch a show, and if you find anything that's clippable, send it to me, and then we could save it. Because I would like to get, you know, like a Clobby's greatest hits, or, you know, some of his great quotes, or the Gorn, or I've been trying. The problem is there's so many hours of things. Like he was on Sunday Night Geekery every Sunday.
Yeah.
On Sunday, obviously, Mark. Yeah, get you. And he would do the Gorn, but like, you know, you not that you take things for granted, but like, oh, I should have like clipped that or marked that, like, oh, we did this really good Gorn impression. So when you've got like, you know, 400 hours of shows to go through, it's tough to.
That's a lot of shows.
It's tough to.
And
to find.
He was on your show. He had Saturday Night Star Trek, obviously.
Yeah.
Monday Night Mark C. Wild Card Wednesday. What are you doing Thursday? There's something on Thursday as well.
Well, we did the Clubhouse on Thursday.
The Clubhouse, right? Yeah.
And we did the watch parties before that.
Right.
We're doing Blake 7. We made it to season 3 of Blake 7 or 4.
Yeah.
I think season 3. When he middle of season 3, if memory serves. But we had a ton of fun, you know, with Raquel doing that Clubhouse on Thursday night, and it was some good times. Yeah,
he was on Nick Weiser's streams. He was on 24/7. Stone Cold Loki, I believe. Although his were usually at times when I wasn't able to see it.
Loki did a Wednesday night comic book show.
Okay,
and then Nick was doing a Friday night one that's moved to Saturday now. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of Clobby out there. You know, if he was here, he'd make a joke about that. You know, but as I told you last night, Mike never realized how much people loved him, how many people loved him. You know, he was bullied as a child because Mike was essentially born overweight. And he got some bullying and stuff, and that kind of stuff I think sticks with you when you know it happens when you're a child. And so he had kind of a low self-esteem, and couldn't see that everybody loved the guy. You know, not just on YouTube, but in real life. You know, he always had, as you met a few of them, these beautiful women hanging around. You know, he was just the greatest guy ever. And loyal to a T. I think I told the story once about we only went to we were only at 2 cons at the same time. I mean, one of them was probably 10 years ago now. I went to New Orleans wearing the Thor get up, and I was a lot, you know, more muscular back then. And we were walking outside, and some guy tried to pick a fight with me. And
with you?
With me, yeah.
Why? Because he's stupid?
When, you know, a lot of big guys, you know, tall guys or muscular guys, people want to prove themselves, you know. So some guy drummed up some excuse, and I was ready for it. I mean, I was ready for it.
You're ready to go, yeah.
I was ready to go. And Mike just, you know, Mike was like, you know, I looked at a picture. You might have been right. Mike might have been 6'4", 6'3", because he was significant. He was a little taller than I was. Over 500 pounds. Anyway, he just kind of leaned into the guy and said, all I have to do is lean against you. You know, the guy with the wall was behind him. Said, all I'd have to do is lean against you. I'd crush you. And the guy was like, okay. You know, and I was like, you know, Mike, I was kind of ready to take care of business myself.
I wanted to practice my karate.
Kung fu, but yeah.
Darren.
But hail, sir. But
yeah,
that's
normally you think you'd pick on like
the
little guy to pick the fight with. Yeah, but the guy was so intimidated by Mike, right? Yeah.
I had, by me, I guess. Some people, you know, because at the time, like I said, I was, you know, this is when I was single. I was lifting weights all the time. I was benching 300-ish, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. But I had, you know, you've seen the pictures.
Yeah.
And that to some people.
You almost used to be as big as me.
I was 230.
Yeah.
And
hail to Darren.
People who have self-esteem issues like to pick somebody to fight. When I taught Kung Fu, I had a student named Steve Gant, and Steve was like 6'6", something like that. Big guy, but an intellectual. And I said, Steve, why does a guy your size, need to take martial arts? You worried about encountering a belligerent country or something? And he said, when you're my size, everybody wants to prove themselves against you, And this guy was, he was really intellectual, hyper smart, and just was not at all interested in anything physical. He never played basketball or anything that the tall guys do. So yeah.
Well, it's always
So
good
that
to be able to know how to defend yourself too. So that's.
And he was a good student. I'm sure he was well able. It was so funny because I had another student who was about 6'4", so not as big, but a good 250. Probably on a lean day. And when we went to our first tournament, they came running up to me and said, Steve, we took first and second in the lumbering behemoths division. Heavyweight, fighting division,
Yeah.
But and I think that was the same thing. I've had a couple of people when I was big. I've been a dad for almost 6 years now, so I've not been to the gym really very much. But I think that's what was going on. But Mike just stepped in, and he wouldn't even give me a chance to say, "All right, let's go, buddy."
Let's go, man.
I'll lean against you.
He was your Finnegan, yeah.
Yeah. So
no, when you see someone that big, it's I'm a pretty big guy too, but not that tall. I think I used to claim to be almost 6 feet, but probably shrank and got wider. But Mike was that intimidating presence. But a lot of guys that are big guys are gentle giants, right? So he never got. I'm sure he got angry, but he never. Got angry with me, or we always had a lot of patience, or it was always very understanding, and we got to talk about him, before we head out here in a few minutes, how he charmed the ladies, right? So you could always tell he could, and Claude, I should have asked Claude to be here too, but this is last minute, so I apologize, Claude, but. Mike, Claude left a notice at Twin Peaks, which was, for those of you who don't know, kind of like a Hooters down in Baton Rouge, I guess, and all the ladies are very sad. But Mike was such a charmer, right? They all, loved Mike. They're really sad to learn, his passing, and he's the kind of guy that made friends wherever he went. So, like the story of how he met Retro Blasting, he was at a con, and he was sitting on the bench out there, and he met Melinda, Mike, Retro Blasting's wife, and they just stuck up such a great conversation. They became really good friends, and Mike ended up, I think, staying at his house a couple times. Hey, our good buddy Nick Weiser's here. He says, "Sup, Nick?" This is like Crush. Clobby was a one of a kind, and Nick is saying, he definitely was. Yeah,
he was
super one of a kind. Yeah,
he was. So, I as you said, I've known him for. Since 1980, I want to say 1982. So what's that? 44 years. And I said this to you last night, so forgive me for repeating myself. But for those of you who are not Mark, Mike was the kind of guy that you never wanted the visit to end. He would always be, I've got to go do a show, or I've got to go to work or something. But
he
was the kind of guy. It was just so much fun to be around, that you never wanted the night to end. And I think I'd speak for everybody that knew him. Claude and Ace Cast Iron, and other people who I guess were not really too much on the streams very much.
Well, I mean, you have your real life, quote unquote, real life friends. Not that we weren't friends, but it's a different dynamic when you get to be able to hang out with people, in person, and go to bars or watch a game together. And I never got the chance to do that. But doesn't mean we weren't friends. But it's just a different. It's a different dynamic. I always talk about them, and talking to my wife today. And, unfortunately, we're going to a funeral tomorrow for family friend who was a Green Beret and great American, and helped to train a lot of Navy SEALs and frogmen, and had a great long life. And it's an anniversary of my dad's funeral tomorrow too. 10 years. My dad passed away on the 9th, and 10 years. It'll be 10. The funeral will be 10 years. It's just hard to believe too. And Mike is 2 years. So it was a lot of one-two punches. And I'd lost one of my best friends in 2019. Passed away. Really very close. You would have loved my buddy Rob. You could have spoken in movie quotes. He would have fit right in with you guys. He had a much better memory than me. So, and he would do that all the time. But so it was a real bummer to lose such a good friend. Thank you, RJ Godzilla. Yep, it was just a bummer. And then I'm not saying Mike was a good addition to my life, or like really helped me, get through some tough times. Not that not that you're like, oh, looking for a replacement best friend or good friend, but just sometimes the way life works out, and sometimes it takes a turn. And I always like to think that losing my buddy Rob, but he was the kind of guy that would have fit in with everyone. And there's holes in your heart, but then you get additions. You get some plugs in your heart, and Mike was one of those plugs that really helped me, because I was bummed out. My dad, it was a big gut punch. You don't realize it too, I guess. Your parents, they're pain in the asses, and then you realize how close you are to, not everyone has a great relationship with their parents, but I was lucky enough that I did. And I shared an office with my dad 30 plus years, and we always would argue, bicker about but stupid stuff.
Sure.
And then when June sucks, but my birthday is in 5 days on the 17th, so at least we got that. But my dad's birthday was the 19th. My sister's birthday is the 19th. My mother-in-law's birthday is the 19th. So, it's and as Brian says, it's different. But when you spend several nights a week for years listening and interacting with someone, even in a live chat, their loss certainly leaves an empty space. Yeah, 100%, Brian. Yeah, you get to know people really well. Like we know all of you guys in the chat, and you know your personalities. And I, sometimes when I go to like a different YouTube stream or news stream, you can see the community of everyone interacting, and you're not, you're the outsider to a new group, but you're just watching like the inside jokes and people that know each other. If you stumble across like a different, YouTube stream, and Mike was always welcoming to everyone. Like he never put anyone down, or said, oh, you don't know that, or his knowledge of comics. I thought I was pretty good until my memory's not as good as it once was with all the comics there, but his memory for everything in these comic book stories is just phenomenal. And I think he always said he could, he would put himself down and say he couldn't really read that well, but he learned to read. He said, with the Peter Pan records and the Batman and the Star Trek records, and I think his first word he said was Batman. The Batman 66 show.
The 66 show, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, his parents apparently thought that he was I won't use the word that they used to use, special needs or learning challenge or whatever, and they were going to put him in special education. And then he started reading comic books, and suddenly his reading was beyond everybody else's. Those of you who grew up, and it's probably me and D Bud and Dad. Well, even Dad Man's younger than I am, but But if you grew up in the 70s, you learned scientific terms before. Like I knew what a clone was a decade before the general population did because
of comics,
because of comic books. Yeah, and other scientific terms. So Mike went from being considered special needs, and then next thing you know, he's like a voracious reader. Now it was all comic books and football, but still.
Yeah, but I think your brain works, and you're really interested in something, it goes in overdrive. Like that was his niche, or something that worked for him. So, there's different ways that people learn, and for him that wasn't even learning, right? Because it was just something you love. Like work, if you love your work, it's not work, right? Because you're just enjoying what you're doing, right?
Mike, I mentioned before, Mike didn't really talk about it that much, but he was subjected to bullying because of his weight and stuff. And then he found this world where I tried to say this at his service, but I was getting too choked up. But he found this world where the strong didn't prey on the weak, or when they did, there was justice, and the good guys always prevailed, and they protected the weak guys. You had Captain America and Superman and these other characters who protected people just because it was the right thing to do. Superman didn't, or Captain America, they didn't do it out of guilt because they stood by as the guy who later killed their Uncle Ben, or because out of vengeance, because his parents were killed in an alley. It was, they were guys that were doing the right thing because it was the right thing to do. And so he kind of found this world, which was the world that he wanted to live in. I guess we all sort of do, I mean, we all like to think that if we got bitten by a radioactive spider and didn't die of cancer, that we'd be the good guy, where the truth is, we'd probably, guys like you and I would probably be mostly good, but we'd be like, hey man, I saved your life last week. I think you could give me that parking spot, or,
right, yeah. Actually, I was working with the scouts at the climbing wall last week, and the Cub Scouts, and they all wanted to. We were doing the bouldering wall, which is you go sideways, and I'm not getting on the wall. I'm just there, chaperoning or telling them the rules. And there's a huge climbing tower that's like 50 feet tall, and they all want to go in that. I'm like, well. Have you? Every group of scouts said, was anyone in this group bitten by a radioactive spider? If you have, then you can go on the other climbing wall. Yeah, so like if you had the power, and they were all laughing, it was a good icebreaker to not to turn them down. And thank you, Darren. He's got a super chat here. The Chinese tradition is to buy something sweet and remember your loved one on those special days and anniversaries. Buy some sweet, Marc D with a C. Happy pre-birthday, man. Well, thank you so much, Darren. And of course, these were Mike's favorite were M&Ms, right? So I just found that maybe I'll have some M&Ms. I've been pretty good. This was actually there was the scouts were giving out M&Ms, so it was as a treat. But thank you, Darren. Yeah, that's a nice tradition. Yep, very 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 sweet. Thank you. Yep, and Clobby loved his M&Ms. Yep, that's for sure. Yep.
Yeah, he was. I tried to get him off the junk food, unsuccessfully.
It's tough. I mean,
It's like Nick Weiser and I were talking about the debate about whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie. And that
hail to Tom.
Don't everybody hail. Don't everybody jump on me at once. But I say it's not. And I was watching. Mel Gibson, Danny Glover, Lethal Weapon, the first Lethal Weapon. I was like, hey, wait a minute. This has a lot more Christmas references in it than Die Hard. It starts off and he's in a Christmas tree grove selling Christmas trees, and then, there's the big fight scene, they crash into a lit Christmas tree. And, he gives, at the end, sorry, spoiler alert, he gives Murtaugh a present, which is the bullet that he had saved for himself, wrapped in a bow. It started with a Christmas song. It ended with a Christmas song. A lot more. But anyway, my point is that you'll never convince somebody of something that's driven by their emotion. This is why Mike like he hated the John Byrne Superman because John Byrne depowered him. And my argument was, well, did you ever read the first year of Superman? He could only leap a tall building.
He couldn't fly.
Yeah, and nothing less than a bursting shell could penetrate his skin. So I'm like, no, they're just bringing it back to his roots. But for Mike, he didn't like that. He wanted everything to be the way it was when he was learning about it. And when he fell in love with these things, and that to him was, it's like Captain America. The whole debate about Captain America being other people, not just the Falcon, but John, whatever his name was.
John Walker.
No, John Walker. Yeah. I had his real name in my head. I couldn't get it out. But he wanted them the way that he loved them when he was growing up, because they were like family members to him, So, but at the same time, he would argue with you and he'd say, hey, Mark, you absolutely have the right to be wrong. I mean, it's embarrassing for you to be this wrong, but, I still love and support you, no matter how much he disagreed with you, he was always respectful.
Oh, yeah. He was never always a bully or, Yeah, he never was never was like that. Yeah.
He'd never say, "Oh, you're making a straw man argument, or you're doing this fallacy," or trying to attack you. He would just counter with the points. And if you couldn't, because there are times when you can't, there are certain things that are just visceral, and he would just say, "Well, we're going to agree to disagree." I hate to use that phrase, but and then you'd go to Twin Peaks or something, so
and enjoy the view. Enjoy the view. Yeah,
and enjoy the view. Yeah, and all the beautiful waitresses that would come around, and
And hail to Matthew Pounder and Dave C. Yep.
Hail, gentlemen. Good to see you all. But yeah, he was just the best guy, and I mean, for those, I think everybody here knows. Probably, I think all the names I've heard tonight, because I can't see the chat, were there, or most of you were there, or have seen or watched him replay his service. And I mean, I think the greatest testament, or one of the greatest testaments to Mike was, Mark came from Connecticut. Anti-derivative Jill came from Corpus Christi. Max came from California. Raquel came from Canada. All places start with C's, by the way. I'm racking my brain. What is it with all the C places? There's nobody from Denver, or Baltimore, but there's got to be. Oh, you really are Marc D with a C, with all the
Mark
C's,
from Connecticut. Yeah.
Mark from Connecticut, but I mean, everybody that could afford it and had the time off. You guys came from hundreds of miles. Vancouver, I guess, is thousands of miles.
Well, that's what my wife didn't hesitate. I'm like, it does cost, it does cost something to, stay in a hotel. Thankfully, we split the hotel and the car, whatever.
Right,
but it's not cheap. My wife's like, just go do it. She knew how good of friends we were. And hail to Tim Hayes and
hail Tim.
She's like, just do it. She's like, and she's like, and I'm like, yeah, I should have gone soon. It's like, well, you could have gone. You could have gone, but.
Yeah,
visit him, like we talked about ClobbyCon and stuff, and it was just the Gorn voice was so funny. Yeah,
there was a line from Next Gen. I think it was from All Good Things, where it's in the future, and they're sitting around the table and they're talking about Deanna, who has passed, and they don't really say why, and Riker on the verge of tears says something along the lines of. You think you have all the time in the world when you're young, and it's true.
Yeah, you do.
True.
Yeah, you think.
I have some guilt. I have some guilt for not seeing my father before he died one last time. And I told you last. And there's a lot of people that have that kind of survivor guilt because you put off seeing somebody, whether it be your relatives, your friends, or whatever, because life is in the way, or flights are expensive or whatever. I
remember my uncle had cancer when I was a little kid, and he was so sick he couldn't eat, and I don't want to, it was just I was scared to go into the room with him. Yeah, and I always felt bad. Like I was a 10-year-old kid, but it was like and I'd always kind of because we were so close, and but it was just for me, it was heartbreaking because I didn't want to see my uncle that way because we were very very close.
Yeah.
And it's tough. It's tough to deal with that. Stuff. Yeah,
it is. But and Mark's hearing all this stuff for the second time. So we must have talked for an hour last night.
And we talked really late too. Yeah.
Yeah. So
which was good. It was good to catch up.
It really was.
And I only woke my wife up a little bit every time I go to bed late. I'm trying to tiptoe in this big huge dude, and I always end up waking. She's the world's lightest sleeper. We don't need a guard dog. Me, it's a nuclear weapon to wake me up. But
second lightest sleeper.
Yeah.
My daughter will wake up at the sound of a fly landing on a table. Oh wow, my phone is like, oh, I recognize you're making gestures with your hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in a lot of things, in a lot of aspects of my relationship with Mike, I'm very lucky. Almost as if I don't want to get metaphysical, but somebody was sort of watching out for me. Because I told you how I stumbled on him the first time, I stumbled on him the second time, which was really far away from my home. I was just getting some cloth at Joanne Fabric to make my Batman costume. And then next door was a comic shop, a brand new comic. Wow, hey, it's Mike. Holy cow. And then, we fell out of touch. We didn't have a falling out. We fell out of touch again because this was pre-cell phone days, pre-internet.
Yeah.
Back in those days, we had to communicate with ravens or smoke signals. But and then a third time, he stumbled into my life. So I've been very fortunate in that regard. I'm also very fortunate that Maddie and I came down for a visit, and we got to have lunch with him. So I think it was 3 months before he passed, something like that. So he got to see Maddie again. We had a long lunch that, again, I never wanted to end, as I said, but he had to be on somebody's show. I think it was Midnight's Edge, if I recall correctly, but it could have been Nick or anybody, but he took that stuff seriously. He's like, hey, I told him I'd be on the show, so I got to go. But I would have felt really terrible had I not.
Not seen him.
The thing that I sort of mentally call the one last time, because I'm sure with anybody who's lost somebody, think if only I had seen them one last time.
Well, like with my dad, at least, when you have cancer, at least you kind of know. You don't know when it's going to be the exact last time, but you have your chance to say goodbye. And my friend Rob, we had a chance to say goodbye. But, someone's taken in an instant. And Mike never missed a Sunday Night Geekery.
Yep.
He was there from show one, and he was always early. And if he was going to be late, like he'd always visit his parents on Sunday night.
Right.
And he would... Mark, I'm going to be a couple. I'm like, Mike, if you get a miss, I don't care. I mean, I care. I don't care.
Sure.
Like you're with your parents, your mom, dad. Just if you're late, it doesn't matter. But he was always like, I'll be back, buddy. I'll be back. He always, call me buddy. Yeah, he loves the word buddy. I'll be back. And that night, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't hear anything. Because he would always tell you, if he wasn't going to be there.
That night, I'm like,
hang on a second.
You got to mute the other feed. Yep. So so then during the end of that last show, I'm like, where's Mike? And then I knew in the morning when I got a text message from Jonathan that this is Jonathan on Mike's Mike's cell phone, or answering some of my I guess it was Twitter or whatever, it doesn't matter, WhatsApp or whatever it was, answer me. I was like, oh crap, something happened, something happened. So
right. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we think he had a massive heart attack, unfortunately. And, he lived for a few days. People got to say goodbye, but I don't think he ever remained conscious. But they say people can hear you. So Jonathan held up the phone and let me, say some, nice things to Mike and how much I appreciated him. And, I know Loki got to go. And, of course, Claude was there.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know. I just hope that he got that message. But
I think that he did, and I'll tell you why. It's not just belief. When my father died, and he was like in a coma, I guess, something very much like a coma, and they had him hooked up to the EKG, and my mother said, "Watch this." And she said, Don, which is my father's name, she said, Russell is here, Russell being his brother who he couldn't stand. And the thing went,
yeah, oh God, yeah.
my father was from a small town in North Carolina called Rutherfordton. And his brother was essentially that guy from the old Disney movies, also from Green Acres. It was always trying to, Mr. Douglas, have I got a deal for you? Or if you're familiar with Disney, I'm the leader. I'll say when it's time to go. It's time to go. Pat Buttram was the guy's name, and that was my uncle to a T. Sounded like him. He was, and my father, he loved his family, but he couldn't stand to be around them because they were such rednecks, and somehow he had lifted himself out of that. So, but yeah, the EKG just went, crazy.
Crazy, right? Yeah.
So I'm sure that Mike probably, got the message, and I mean, he I think he knew how much everybody loved him in a way.
Yeah,
I think if he would have known that people were going to come who'd never met him were going to come to his service, that it would have just,
floored him. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, it's touching to me, I mean, to see you guys make that effort, that trip, the financial and the,
Yeah.
taking the time off of work. And so yeah.
Yep.
I finally got my other computer, and Cam says, I'm sure that he heard you, and I'm
Yep.
sure.
Thank you, Cam. Yeah.
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 Yeah, RJ Godzilla. Yeah, he was the sheriff of Nottingham in the Disney Robin Hood, which is really funny because, as Mark knows, I'm a direct descendant of King John, the bad king that Robin
The
Hood was
bad
trying
guy.
to.
Yeah.
The bad guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
I always make the joke that I never have to say King John the first, second, or third because he was such a bad king that
Yeah.
nobody else named their kids John after him.
Yeah. It's so bad. Yeah.
He's like my 22nd great grandfather, I think. But yeah, Mr. Haney, exactly. Yeah, well, people here really know this to Tim Hayes and
Yes.
Darren.
We're real nerds and geeks here. Yep. The real
Well,
deal.
I tend to think of myself as the oldest guy in the room, no matter what the room. Even if I was in a sarcophagus, But yeah, Tim Hayes and Darren, and I'm not familiar with S.Phil RBW, but yeah, also Festus as Goober. King Richard Lionhearted was the king, and Rob. Yes, Tim, and I tell Maddie he's the bad guy because he's my I think 22nd great grandfather's older brother. So it's sort of a joke that we make that, or that I make that. But of course, Maddie's only 5, and she always says, "Dad, kings aren't real." So, but yeah. Anyway, but yeah.
Well, we got to wrap this up now because I'm supposed to be doing a Fortnite stream, and this has been a great remembrance, and we got 30 plus people watching now. This is just a last minute thing, and we're almost hit an hour, which I think is. I told Steve, let's just do 15, and you agreed with me. Like, let's do 15, 20 minutes, and you can't sum up Mike. Mike was so wonderful. It's tough to truncate anything, but we could literally go on here for hours and hours, all the great stories. And we just wanted to get on here tonight and just let people know that we're thinking of him, and hopefully he's watching us from above. And it's great to have this turnout here because I didn't, promote, not that you promoted or, just let's just go live for a few minutes.
Imagine if you had.
Yeah. Well, last year we did a much bigger thing, and we had nice turnout tonight too, because Mike did bring people together. But I do want to play a few clips. What we'll do is I'll play a few clips. Why don't you just give a couple of last memories, Steve, or remembrance if you want, and then I'll do the same, and then I got a couple of mic clips to play. Hey, Six.
Hey, howdy, Six. Yeah, thank you.
And then you can go. Then everyone can go over to Fortnite, which Clobby did play a few times with me. We're going to do a Fortnite stream in a couple. It was supposed to start a half hour ago, but if anyone wants to come over and watch me play Fortnite, but those were some fun times with Mike trying to play Fortnite with us. And why does Superman have a gun and is shooting people? Nailed the Six. Thank you, Six. Yeah.
Well, first of all, I would like to say thank you for everybody who showed up. And I'm sure Mike would be touched. I certainly am. It's funny. Everything I say, I can hear Mike making a joke. Like I was about to say, Mike touched a lot of people, and I could just hear him saying, "Nobody can prove a thing."
Yeah.
There's no evidence. But yeah, he was incredibly special to me, and through him, I got to meet all of you, wonderful people, for which I am grateful. I'm not able because when I started joining on these streams, Maddie was a baby. And so, she would sleep most of the time. And Mark remembers like me all of a sudden, jumping out because I'd hear the baby crying. We have to go pick her up and, feed her or whatever, and now she's 5, although, Mark has heard me brag. She reads 3 grades ahead of where she is.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more difficult for me to join the streams, but I am very grateful for everybody who showed up. I'm grateful for everybody who has come to say something about our friend Clobby, Mike, whatever. I'm not really going to give you remembrances because
it's whatever you want. Whatever you want to say.
I'll
Yeah,
never
yeah.
stop. I mean, it's
Yeah.
every you mentioned movie quotes every time that the only people that have seen Superman the movie several times will catch this, but every time I'd knock on Mike's door, he just open it up and say, "Be a pet and mail this for me," and then slam the door in my face. You know, or if anybody remembers it was either the Return of the Incredible Hulk or the Incredible Hulk, the one with Eric Allen Kramer as Thor.
Yeah. That's the
it-
Trial of the Incredible Hulk, I believe. Yeah, 'cause
no,
Daredevil's on it, yeah.
Yeah, that's a different one. That's the trial was
A different one?
Daredevil. Yeah,
Okay.
with the singer from Pirates of Penzance. But this was Eric Allen
Yeah.
Kramer, who
Okay.
people may remember from the Hughleys or from Robin Hood Men in Tights, which somebody quoted about King John will name all the toilets Johns after. Thank you.
Yeah.
After my direct ancestor. Thank you very much
Right.
for
Yeah.
that. But the other thing that Mike Clobby would do is when I knock on the door, he would do the line where Jack Colvin, I almost said Jack Kirby, the reporter who was always hounding him and following him from city to city, and
Oh yeah. The guy that was always trying to
right,
grab him.
yeah. He was essentially Javert from Les
His
Miserables.
nemesis. Yeah.
Yeah, but there was one time where Banner sees him through the window and goes, "Uh-oh, there's gonna be trouble." And Thor, who's kind of like the original Thor, goes big smile and he goes, "Trouble?" And then the guy knocks on the door, and Mike would often open the door and say these exact lines that Thor said. What is it that you knock on my door with such insolence? And I would take the insolent. No, I'm looking for a man. Well, you have found one. No, I'm looking for a particular man. I am a particular man, especially with those with whom I speak. So his whole life was either jokes, impressions, or speaking in movie quotes, and it just it took a certain weight off. Which I guess I'm sort of quoting the first Batman movie, but that's what Mike did. He made your spirits lighter, and he made you just feel good for a while.
Oh yeah, no, it was always, and sometimes I'd be like, oh, I got to go on tonight again, but but it's with Mike. It's going to be awesome. So because you get tired, and then a lot of times in the beginning he started like, buddy, do you want to come on the show tonight? And then after a while, he gave you the key to the StreamYard, so I just could pop in.
Yep.
And I would always, I shouldn't say, I wanted him to, I'd go on like the second hour, I'd be doing work. He's like, oh, I was dying. Thank you for coming on. I'm like, dying? I'm like, you're awesome. What do you mean you were dying doing that first hour of the show? You were so good, And sometimes he'd send me like, get in here now or whatever, but. It was just so much fun, and then we'd talk for hours after the shows too. So that was a lot of fun. But it was. He was a great guy, and
the best.
Always think about him, and just wanted to get on here tonight. And we're gonna hit an hour, but that's okay. Fortnite can wait. But I did set up the redirect, so if you want to come, I'll talk a little bit about Mike there too, probably. But it was just so much. Fun to share those good times, and that's what keeps people alive. They're keeping their memory alive. So we had a lot of people trying. So we had Ethereal Dragon, Tom from Midnight Edge.
Before you go and thank everybody, I just want to just really quickly. Darren M said, "Drop a memory of Clobby below once we end," and I think that's a great idea. And I will do so as well. Sorry to interrupt, but go ahead.
That's okay. Yeah, and of course, Tom from Midnight's Edge, great friend of Clobby's, Lemon Pie, Deeple, Arabo, Monte, Crimlon, Tim Hayes, Dave C, Max Redstone, Stream Element Spot, Bill, Cam, Tim, Six, RobAltis, Matthew Pounder, Brian Hepburn, D-Bud Martin, RJ Godzilla, Admiral Teague, 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser, and Darren M. So thank you so much, everyone, for just hanging out with it. We ended up being an hour. I figured that would happen, right? With Mike was just so amazing. So we started several shows that no plan for, and we'd go on for 3 hours. Yep. Captain P Hard. Yeah. We miss him all the time, Jill. Yep. Definitely love him today since I was reviewing TNG.
Oh, hey, Jill.
We missed that. Yeah. Missed those Star Trek shows, and it was just so much fun and just great stuff. And Polly's Minion is here. Hey, Great to see you, Paul.
Hey, Apollomy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know Jill was here, but Mike had a special place in his heart for Jill. I think he saw Jill as kind of like a daughter that he loved his daughter, but she wasn't really into a lot of the same stuff that Mike was. So yeah, he definitely had a special place in his heart for anti-derivative Jill. So thank you for showing up, Jill, along with everybody else. I mean, those great people.
Yep. All right, well let's get on out of here. I'm gonna put Mike's picture up and play a couple of clips on the way out. And yeah, if everyone could leave a memory there, and just think of Mike and watch some of his videos, share some of his videos, so that keep his memory alive, and spread Clobby's wisdom, because thankfully those shows are still on YouTube, and we can all enjoy them. So spread the word if you've meet someone who hasn't seen him yet, especially like anything Star Trek. He's got it. So what an encyclopedia was. Yep.
It really does. When you watch them, it really does take you right back to that time and that place, and it makes you feel, for me anyway, it makes you feel as good as we did back in the day. So yeah.
Yep. All right, everyone. Well, thank you, Steve, for being here last minute. Good night, Maddie. Better be in bed. It's late there. But
thank you for doing
wonderful
this.
to be here, and thank you everyone in the chat. And if I missed anyone, I think I got anyone. That was the PVFS. It was a game that Clobby played. We tried to. This is before we had the top fans thing on YouTube, where you could click the button. We'd play the game. Like, did we get everyone? So I think we got everyone. But thank you for being here, everyone. Keep Clobby's memory alive. God bless Mike, and shout out to Jonathan and Ash and the Alonzo family. Thinking of you guys this day as well. So, all right, we'll play a few clips.
Absolutely.
and see everyone soon. God bless.
The word is given, and the word is Clobberonimo. Oh my goodness! Welcome, greetings, my dear friends. Welcome to Clobbering Times, and to those who clobbered, your clobberers, your clobberoids, your clobberooskies, clobberians, clobberonimos, clobologists, all who clobber. One day you too may clobber if you learn how to. It sucks. Somebody ought to get their ass kicked for this mess. It's clobbering time for real. Oh my God. Yeah.
It's a thing ring through your thing.
Yeah.
Oh God, that was a travesty.
Oh my God. Someone needs their ass kicked for that. Do your
thing ring, do your thing. It's like
if I ever run across some bitch and someone points out and says, that's the asshole who came up with thing ring. You know, by the way, go look at him, freeze on him for a second.
Yeah, it's horrible. The rocks.
You notice how they make him look just like the one from the 1967? Look at his face.
Yeah, with
the old cartoon. The face doesn't look any different.
Hate mouth, yeah.
It sucks. Somebody ought to get their ass kicked for this mess. It's clobbering time for real if I ever meet that. Hey, JT Kirk, thank you for that, buddy. I think that your chat should be hauled away as garbage.
Great line.
Maybe we should do the whole scene. Laddie, don't you think you should rephrase that? You're right. I should. I didn't mean to say that the Enterprise should be hauling garbage. I meant to say that it should be hauled away as garbage.
You know, there's a thing we do on Midnight's Edge on birthdays.
What's that?
You didn't think you was going to get away from me, did you?
Yeah, but on the birthday, like one thing.
It is your birthday. I have one fucking thing I do, okay? And it's the birthday thing. You don't have nothing else left, and you're trying to take that away from me, too. I mean, come on.
I love Bat Tom.
I even went and I got the OG birthday song.
Boy.
I just love clobbering time.
Briscoe, Bowler, I hope to see you in action again soon.
Count on it. Well, maybe after a brief hiatus.